Second day of testing is complete. Pato, generally, now that you've done 2 days out here, what are your biggest takeaways from testing?
Fun track. Obviously today was a little bit colder, windier. The track does transform quite a bit depending on what the weather is like. You know, obviously it's not a shock because a lot of tracks are like that. But I mean, this was truly the start to our race weekend. You know, when you get to the race weekend, you really only have maybe one practice and straight to qualifying. So you have to have at least your qualifying car dialed in, and you know, with the amount of sets of tires that we had, we were obviously trying to also get the race car a little bit more in tune to what I need. But I think we ended the test in a really nice spot to be able to build on that coming back.
Looking at all the times, Penske very fast yesterday. This afternoon they didn't really push much. Everyone was limited on tires. But do you guys feel like, even though you weren't maybe at the top of the sheets, that you got what you wanted covered? You got a little bit of long stint pace, and you've got that speed when it comes to doing short runs.
Yeah, I would have loved to have been able to do maybe one more long run, I would say. Because, I mean, the race is long, you know how they are, man. The car can be amazing in the first stint, but then in the second stint, it's upside down. Why? Because, you know, the track is colder, or there's more wind. There's so many different factors. But I do think in terms of qualifying mode, I'm happy with where the car is at, especially coming back. I mean, you don't expect it to be this cold. So it's a bit tough to read too much into what the test was like. You're going to have to move a little bit to get it into a perfect window, as I think we got it here. But I think the race car is going to be a bigger teller on, you know, doesn't matter how good you qualify. If you don't have a good race car, you're going straight to the back. So you want to be able to attack.
The first thing you said about this place is that it's a fun racetrack. What is it about this short track, this mile-long track, I should say, that makes it so fun to run on?
It reminds me of like a mix of Gateway and Milwaukee, actually. It's
I like it.
It's cool. I mean, I really hope that there's a second lane. Do I see it happening? I think we might see that happening with like bits and pieces of the corner. I don't think you'll see 2 lanes everywhere, but I think you might see certain areas where if you can get half a wing, you'll be able to prepare a pass or something. So we'll see. That high line should help, that high line session.
We talked to a lot of people so far about like degradation, and several of the drivers that we spoke to were saying that the degradation comes more from the front, and potentially if people are starting to understeer a little bit more, maybe some people can keep the nose down and create those runs that need to be made for good racing. Over a long stint, do you see that same thing? Is there going to be some deg? Is there going to be some controlling of the tire that needs to happen to make sure you're on pace?
And I think it's going to depend on your balance, because I've had the pleasure of trying a car this 2 days that has a bunch of understeer and one that has oversteer, and whatever you start with is just going to get drastically more that way. So I don't agree it's all going to be understeer. I do. No. I think you're going to see a lot of people, if they start loose, oh my God, they're going to be holding on. And if you start with understeer, you're probably not going to be able to follow at all. If I had to pick, I would probably take maybe a little bit looser car, but you know I prefer that.
Yeah.
But it's a very fine line, because you are flirting with fire there. But at the end of a stint with one or the other, if you're going to be able to rotate, it's going to be with the looser one. So I think at some point you just have to just hope to God it's just enough.
Kyle, over the last 2 days, you've been able to experience this place in a lot of different conditions. So generally, how do you describe racing here at Phoenix Raceway?
It's interesting, right? For the first day and a half, I'd say mostly everybody was kind of just doing their typical Q runs, maybe a long run, kind of no traffic. And then right at the end today, we got some traffic and some passes actually happening. So a little bit inspiring for the race. It seems like there actually can be a race here. It was a little bit scary there for me. I was like, man, it's going to be one lane and you're just going to be able to do everything on like fresh tires, right? But it kind of feels like that might not be the case now. It's a very interesting circuit, right? It's kind of like Gateway on steroids, because this end is even more flat and even faster, and then you have this end that's very high banking. It's not even like it's not a traditional oval corner, right? It's just like a 90 almost, it feels like. So it's a very unique track, and trying to find the best of both worlds is something that is definitely a struggle, and I'm sure everyone has the same thing, right? Because it's two different ends or two vastly different corners. So it's been fun. It's been challenging. It's going to create a pretty fun weekend, I think.
You guys look good, I think, over these 2 days, but what has your new teammate Will Power brought to the table? Obviously, super experienced.
Yeah.
You know, you've been probably asked that question 100 times, but he's very good, and so are you guys. And this team, I think, is really looking to have a really big year. So tell us what he's brought to the table.
I mean, if you just think about the experience the guy has, especially short oval racing, where he comes from is the best organization on short ovals. There's no secret about that, right? And he knows what feels right around these short ovals. And I think we got him to a place now that he feels like he's at home, and he's like, man, this is about the best an oval package can feel. And it kind of showed in the times for him, right? We're about a 10th off quickest, right? But maybe not putting everything together, but we're in a really good spot, I think, here. And a lot of that's driven by him. A lot of it's driven by Ron, too. And it's cool to see how we've evolved now just based on his thoughts and his feelings, and it's how we've gotten to the point that we are now at this place, at least.
And you mentioned that all of a sudden at the end of the day, now it's getting racy. You think that's the cool weather? Because that excites me when I see it. Because again, I saw cars running close all of a sudden. Is it turn 1 that you're getting runs into? Is it getting out of turn 4? What do you think is
Bit of both. Bit of both, right? It was dependent on whose car did what on both ends, right? Because I think some cars work really good down there and some cars work really good down there. Ours particularly was better down here, so we were getting runs on people passing there, but I was getting passed going that way. So you kind of, it goes back to what we were talking about. It's like you got to find best of both worlds to actually have a good race car around here to pass everywhere. But yeah, I mean, it's both ends really. It's been very windy, so you'd expect like, oh, you get the headwind coming out of there, you're going to get a run. But I'd say more passes happen going with the wind, which is kind of inspiring for the race, I think, because kind of do anything and still make a pass happen, it seems like.
Well, Rinus, the 2026 season has technically officially begun, and jumping into a new year with a new team, how do you describe how you were able to learn a little bit over these last 2 days?
I mean, it's just great to be on the track and really get to see the team's procedure on how to do everything. I mean, I've been at the shop a lot, but we're not racing cars there, so it's just nice to see how they work, really working with the engineers and for them hearing what my feedback to the car is, what I like, and what we're chasing there. So it's been really good. It's been definitely gives us something to work on for the next few weeks.
Talk about the conditions today, very different than yesterday and could be very different for the race. Do you guys expect what you learned today to be that helpful if it's very, very hot come the race time, or did the conditions affect you guys that much?
Well, the wind was definitely a factor. Temperature wasn't too much of, whenever the temperature drop wasn't too much of a difference. But the wind definitely, one time we had some issues and the wind fixed it when it changed direction. So it's, you got to take things with a grain of salt, but no, it was good. I think, yeah, it's going to be harder for everybody. I think tire temperatures are going to be something to look at when we get to the race. But yeah, I'm excited to take a layer off when we get to the race here.
Well, something about this place that makes it so tricky to run is given that both corners are completely different. What's your analysis on that? Do you have a preference right now on which corner you are running better?
Well, I would say turn 3-4 is an interesting one because it opens up so much on the exit. Took me a little while to not underdrive that corner because you're going in there a lot deeper than you expect to. 1-2 is cool because you're about flat there, so flat's fun.
We saw a lot of cars running very close together at the end, finally, because it's been, the weather was tough today. What do you think race trim-wise? We heard Pato. Pato thought that it was actually going to be pretty good. Kyle Kirkwood thought it was going to be pretty good. You have the same feeling? You think we're in for a good race here?
I think so. I think there's a bit of tire deck going on, so that's going to make it fun. It's going to open up strategy for sure. I wasn't able to follow closer than like 4 back. Tires, you don't know where everybody is, but I think that's kind of how it's going to be. It's how it settles in the race, and then there's going to be some early takers that are going to make moves, but kind of setting themselves up for a caution. So I think it's going to be an interesting race. Definitely tire, dag-wise, I think there's going to be quite a bit of strategy there.
Back here at Phoenix Raceway, you were one of a handful of drivers that's raced here previously. Generally, getting back out there, what did you think of yesterday's test?
Yeah, it's really good. It's good to be back here. I was one of the few that did the tyre test here. The tyre's different from what we tested, so it's definitely trying to play a little bit of catch-up, but just trying to get through the test list. Like, I think it's the same for everybody. A lot of drivers haven't even been here, so it's definitely a bit of a steep learning curve. But for us, we're trying to figure out what we're going to need on long runs and all that stuff. So a lot more progression today. Yesterday, we were just kind of trying to find where we needed to be at that point.
You've obviously been here in multiple different eras, I feel like. What do you think the difference is between the car now compared to where we've been in the past? And obviously the track has aged a little bit. It's probably not quite like what it was in 2017. Give us an idea of what the differences there might be.
There's loads of differences. I was even here, I think, back in 2002, maybe on the old track. So I've seen it all. But it's degraded a little bit, but not that much. The cars are still pretty fast. With grip levels, I think through 1 and 2 is probably going to be flat in qualifying, which is still extremely fast. I think the key for our style of racing now and trying to open up options is going to be getting that second lane in. That's very different from what we've had in the past, but I think with the work that Firestone's done and then the teams and then the style of racing that we have now, it does give you a little more options. So hopefully that comes into play, because I think we'll definitely need it come race weekend.
So looking ahead to today, day 2 of testing, what are your objectives of going out there trying to learn today?
Always trying to go fast. I think that's goal number 1, but for us, I think there'll be more focus on some longer runs. Yesterday we were just trying to get the balance correct, get it in the window, but today will be much more about seeing how you run over 40 or 60 laps.
Well, to that point, you were about 9th there in timing yesterday. Are you satisfied with that, or are you hoping to see a little better today?
No, that was not what we were expecting. I think we definitely had a few struggles on our last tire run. It was pretty messy as far as traffic and things like that. Probably similar for most people, but yeah, that's the other thing here that's really tough, is that it's such a short track. The speeds are very high. So if you catch somebody that's doing a race run, the speed difference is large. So no, we'll focus a little bit on speed, but then, as I said, mostly on race runs and consistency.
Alex here at Phoenix Raceway. Day 1 of testing is complete, getting ready to head into day 2. What are your thoughts coming out of day 1?
More questions than answers, which I think is fairly normal in IndyCar. IndyCar testing. We did the tire test here back in October, which was a really good exercise from the series and Firestone to try and find the correct solution for this event we have coming up, because it's a big deal, right? This is a doubleheader weekend. Our series is going to be in front of a fan base that maybe hasn't seen it before, so we really want to make sure we put on a good show. So in the tire test, we had a pretty good idea of what the car was going to be like and how it's going to perform. And these cars are just so condition sensitive that we came back here and it was a little bit different. So it was a little bit of starting from zero yesterday, but we ended in a good place. It was only ultimately 4 hours, so today is a much longer day to be able to get through everything and have a better understanding of how the car is in Q-Sims and traffic as well.
I talked to a few drivers yesterday, you being one of them, and I want to know a little bit about what this tire might feel like when it starts to degrade, because I think that's what's made some of our short oval racing very good. I think some people think it's a good deg profile, maybe it could help the race, but what do you think? And then how is it different than, let's say, in Iowa when the tires degrade?
So there certainly is tire deg, which is good. That was a request from Firestone to make sure that we had a tire that kind of falls off. Iowa and Milwaukee is so unique because the front and rear axle kind of fall off equally, or at least at some point over the stint, both ends of the car are going away. And so that's what allows you to get super creative and finding different lines and stuff, because everyone's just trying not to crash ultimately. Right now, the way the deg is, it's pretty limited to the front axle. So you have a lot of understeer. The steering load comes out of the car pretty early on in the corner. So if it's just that and it remains like that, that makes it pretty hard for a second lane to open, because you're all dealing with the same problem. You're just now trying to go more distance. So I don't know. It's early. not everyone's kind of in the window yet, so I'm still very optimistic about what we can accomplish, but let's just say it's good we have 2 days here before the race.
So then, what is day 2? What are the things you're really hoping to learn out of this second day?
Well, it'd be nice if it warmed up, because let's say, I mean, I know Conor's in a t-shirt right now, but that is not a good representation of the current conditions, because I am freezing my butt off. So I think everyone's going to wait a little bit until the track temp comes up. We're in the desert, so ultimately we expect it to be pretty warm when we come back here. So hopefully that can happen. That'll give us a better understanding of really how the cars are going to work. But for us on the 20 car, it's still evaluating off-season development items, and when you have 6 months away from the racetrack, you come up with a lot of theories, and you're trying to prove it out once you finally get back on track.
Can you speak quickly to the difference in approaching this season, having this be your second year with the team versus this time last year with all the unknowns?
Sure. Everything's it's more calm, switching organizations, like it's a fire drill, right? You're trying to learn new people, new places, find out what everyone's strengths and weaknesses are, how you can best help the team and move it in a direction. And I think the last third of last year was really good for the whole ECR organization. And we're just carrying that momentum into this year. So we have high expectations of what we can accomplish, and really looking forward to showing that here next week in St. Pete.
Well, Graham, here at Phoenix Raceway, day 1 of testing out of the way. What were your thoughts yesterday evening coming out of that first day?
Well, I felt good, actually. It was like the first day in a long time that I wasn't saving my rear end every time I went through a corner on an oval. So for me, it was refreshing. I thought all 3 of us had a good day. I thought Mick had a good day. I mean, on his install lap, he's like, wow, that felt fast. I'm like, hey, brother, we're not even up to speed yet. But it takes a little bit of time, and I thought all 3 of us had a solid day. It's great to be back here. I mean, this place, it is fun, really fun to drive in our cars, and so different end to end, but but a solid day for us overall.
Obviously, I think the short ovals were without a doubt probably the program that you guys were looking at in the off season to improve. It's been something that, again, you haven't forgot how to drive at these ovals, right? You know what's going on here. You got to have the car underneath you. But tell us a little bit about that development in the off season. Has there been certain people that have helped? Have there been certain philosophies that have helped?
Well, if you look at our season last year, if you took the short ovals out of the equation, we actually had a decent year. Indy was a bit of a struggle, but still did okay in the race. But when you look at the road and street courses, we were typically okay. We weren't Alex Palou, but nobody was. But we were up there a lot. Short ovals, awful. So in the off season, it was focus number 1 for us. I can't say that one hire fixes everything. I think Gavin definitely brought a lot of ideas. Some things we were already doing. But maybe close the loop. We got a couple of mechanics that we hired in the off season that I thought helped close the loop as well, or give us ideas. I mean, even here, there's stuff that we know that we need to do that's not on my car, for instance, here. So hopefully yesterday is a good sign. There's more to come as we go through this. But man, it's always a work in progress. We just know this year, if you look at this schedule, there's a lot of short ovals, right? So we got to be good on them. If we want to be a contender, if we want to be in the top 5, top 10 in points, we've got to make sure that the short ovals are good. So it's an emphasis for us.
When you talk about coming back here, everything is different coming back here, from the cars to the track configuration.
Yeah.
What was the biggest learning curve yesterday stepping back out on this racetrack?
No, I just think getting reacclimated to the track. The chassis is the same. Obviously aerodynamics are different, and of course the hybrid is different. The hybrid's quite weird for me on short ovals. I don't, the regeneration side, when you're entering a corner and you're lifting off the gas, and the way that, the car tries to regenerate power, I'm pretty sensitive. Conor knows this. He was with us at St. Louis. I'm pretty sensitive to the rear on entry to the corner. The hybrid makes that a lot worse for me typically. So that's something I want to work on today, actually. But that was the hardest thing, I think, to adjust to. The rest is, you just got to get out there and turn laps. It's nowhere near flat, where last time we came here, well, maybe not last, but like the 16 cars had so much downforce and grip, and just, they were planted. I mean, this car's not quite that way, but I think that's going to make the racing a hell of a lot better than what we had last time.
With the track the way it is now, obviously turn 1 different than the last time we were here. How do you think that'll adjust the race? Like the start is now going to be into new turn 1 and 2 and restarts into new turn 1 and 2. You think that'll change the profile of the race at all?
I mean, I think running on the outside down there on a flatter corner is typically a little harder, frankly. The banking gives you a little bit more stability, but having said that, I think we really got to see what the race weekend brings, because if we can get the high line working, which we've done at Gateway, which we did at
Milwaukee.
Iowa a little bit, Milwaukee was working, if we can get that to work, I mean, it's going to be a great day. I saw some passing yesterday, even on a pretty green track, and I think, you know, when NASCAR's here and we're here, there's going to be a lot of rubber laid down. Whether those work together or not, who knows? But there's going to be something. So yeah, I mean, I think it's weird, to be honest with you, because I grew up, you grew up, we all came here watching our dads or whatever, and it was always turn 1, and you know, now these numbers have me all confused. But you know, overall, it's I mean, totally different dynamic. This whole thing was grandstands. Now there's no grandstands, and everything's shoved down there. So completely different. But man, I'm looking forward to being back. I'm looking forward to being here on NASCAR weekend. I think, you know, we need to do more together. I mean, we've got to, as motorsports culture in general, we've got to all, you know, team up to try to make motorsports grow and be stronger. So it should be a great weekend.
Day 2 of testing complete here at Phoenix Raceway. Very different weather conditions than we saw at day 1. Much colder, much windier. Conor, how does that affect what these guys are going out there to do today?
Well, after we talked to a couple different drivers, the wind, I think, is the most powerful thing. And this cold weather, I mean, when we come back, we're in the desert. We can come back here and it's 20 degrees warmer on the race day. So that'll affect how the tires wear. That'll affect how the teams, you know, set up the cars for the race. So they do have this information if for some reason we come back here and it's still just as cold. But yeah, just a lot of information gained from these teams, and the weather certainly threw some challenges at them.
Well, speaking of challenges thrown at these guys, we saw another little bit of an issue on the racetrack. Yesterday we saw Kayo. We saw the issue again today with Ericsson. You were right there on pit road. What'd you see from your perspective?
Yeah, oddly enough, I was actually watching from the pit lane, and I haven't heard a car hit the wall in person in a long time, because I've been in a car, but it's a loud noise, and it was crazy to see it. Obviously, the car wasn't completely written off. Like, I was glad to see Marcus was okay, but definitely an issue there. You know, I watched him a video with old Bob Pockris talking about how there might have been an issue that he was feeling there in the car. So, you know, definitely tough to see for that group, because I think the Andretti team as a whole, we're having quite a good test.
Well, another major topic of conversation we've heard about today is tire deg. A lot of guys have similar opinions on how the tires are degrading, but from your perspective, what do you think we saw? And given it's going to be so different come race time, what do you think we can anticipate?
Well, the funny thing is we heard a lot about understeer until we got to Pato O'Ward. Then Pato O'Ward said, well, I like my car super loose, and we know that because he's got psycho hands. But I think that is going to be the balance, right? Where do you find that tip over point of front grip to rear grip, and how do we balance the car for the long run? And I think these teams would have learned a lot today about that. But when it comes down to the race time, who is going to find the perfect balance of front grip to rear grip and just general balance?
Well, looking at the results, we were looking at yesterday's and talking about just how close they are. Well, no difference today, and some notable common themes from yesterday. Didn't see the speed that we were expecting to see out of McLaren, but you mentioned Team Andretti had a strong run. All of those drivers in the top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. Andretti was strong, and Pato was still strong. I even had some comments on the internet saying, "Oh, should we be worried about McLaren?" Again, I don't think so. We're just testing. We're getting some information. We're going to see what happens for race weekend. But I think the one car that we really should talk about is Alexander Rossi. The fact that a Penske car wasn't fastest on a short oval test overall. When it comes to the fastest lap time of these 2 days, it was Alexander Rossi, and the ECR team was very fast with Christian Rasmussen too. So I like that for the race. I think as long as we can see a fight at the front, which we always will in IndyCar, it's good to see a little bit of a spicy top side of the grid and a few different cars up there.
So we know things are going to be tight on speed, but we also learned that things are probably going to be pretty fun. You mentioned Pato. I mean, he told us, he said, this is a really fun place to run. And that's kind of been the general consensus amongst all the guys we've talked to today. They think it's going to be a good race, which for us watching is very exciting.
Drivers love to be pessimistic. When we come to a place and it's not maybe perfect, we're like, oh, everything's gonna suck. I've seen so many drivers that were actually like, I think this race is gonna be fun. So for us as fans, I think that's a great thing. And I'm excited to see when we get back here, what's that next level of information that these teams comes with? What did they study over the next 2 weeks that they can come back here with and be even better? And that's what's so good about this race. So I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm glad these guys are excited. And it means that we hopefully can benefit from that excitement.
And I know you mentioned it before we even started these tests. These guys are building a notebook. How much of that can they take with them to St. Pete?
0. Yeah, this is completely irrelevant for St. Pete, but we're building our book for a couple weeks from now in Phoenix again.
Awesome. So they'll put that on the shelf, and you'll get to see these guys back in action for the first race of this season at St. Petersburg next weekend, March 1st. Catch it live on Fox.